Starting my own small business would be such a cool idea. I love to travel and plan trips to foreign countries, so maybe I could start my own home-based travel agency after I retire. Wait, it just hit me. Abroad on a budget. Perfect. This seems like a great idea, but I don't even know how I would start my own small business. There's so much that goes into it. I'm just gonna sleep this one off.
Hi John, I'm so glad that Italy's your first stop. It's Anja here, and I'm sure you're probably wondering where you should start and what you should do to start your small business. There are a lot of different things you need to think about, but I'll break it down into 10 steps that you need to address. First, you should ask yourself who your customers are. Your market is one of the most important things to think about because you design and improve your business based on the changes and needs of your market. Next, you need to think about why these people will buy from you. Contrary to what you've been taught your whole life, people buy things not from their wants and needs, but from their fears and passions. Third, you have to determine the specific service you can provide that will have a direct and immediate appeal to your target customers' fears and passions. Next, you need to think about how you will reach your customers. This has everything to do with your marketing strategy. You'll need to think about this a lot because this is how you will find new customers and make more money. Anything you do that doesn't make money is a hobby, so it's important to market correctly and efficiently. Fifth, you should determine who your competitors are. There are 4 types, so it's important to identify all of them so you're prepared to deal with them correctly if they start to take your market. Next, you need to determine your competitive advantage. This can be a wide variety of things that you can choose from, so make sure that you have a good understanding of what this is. Then, you need to determine who should be on your management team. Figure out the essential functions of your small business and hire to your weaknesses. After you determine your management team, you should determine how you're going to pay your employees. Do you need more employees or can you keep it very small? Next, you need to determine how you get your money from funding your business. You'll have to familiarize yourself with this topic as it is essential to getting your business up and running. Finally, the last thing you should think about are the risks of running your business. You can determine what type of business you should set up that protects your property the best. Insurance is also important, so make sure you're thinking about that too. Well, these are the 10 things that you should ask yourself when starting and running a small business, and you're going to learn a lot more as your dream progresses. Finally, you should be aware of the 3 characteristics of a successful entrepreneur so that you can determine if you're even cut out for this job. The first characteristic is that you need to be cynical. There's a difference between being cynical and being a pessimist, but a cynic is a realist. You don't care about why something works, you just accept the fact that it does. The second characteristic is that you have to be insecure or paranoid. You should always be looking for problems that could occur, so you stay prepared for any scenario that can occur. Lastly, you need to be aggressive to be successful. You have to go through life not worrying much about the consequences of your actions. If you think you possess these characteristics, you should be on your way to becoming a successful entrepreneur.
Oh, well, now I know the basics of starting a small business, but I'm not sure how to market it.
Hi John, welcome to Ireland, home of beer, whiskey, and lots of knowledge on starting your own business. My name is Andrea, and I hear you're concerned about the best way to market abroad on a budget. I also have some insight on how to compete with some of those top-notch travel agencies. Kind of like my family issues with those Italians and their good pasta. Who picks pasta over whiskey and beer? Anyway, so first things first. You need to ask the question, why will people buy abroad on a budget? People are going to buy into the travel agency based off of 2 things, which is their fears and passions. Now you are in luck because thousands of people are passionate about traveling, and at least half of those have a fear of spending too much money, so way to go, John. You might be asking, how can I sell effectively? Well, you have to persuade them to want to go to Ireland without just some shots of whiskey. There's actually a science behind this. These 6 things are 1, reciprocity, 2, scarcity, 3, authority, 4, consistency, 5 liking, and 6 consensus. Now what is really important here is authority and liking as you begin your process. Liking and authority are most important at the beginning of your sales. You have the background in accounting, so people will trust you with money. And of course, then you need to really show that you have a strong passion for traveling and planning. People will like you and want this abroad experience more if they can call you and have things in common when you're talking to them. So what is the best way to market abroad on a budget? All right, so you know how to sell the travel agency, but how do you advertise and market it? Well, John, you're in luck once again because I have 4 little secrets that will help you marketing. These are called the 4 Ps: product, price, promotion, and placement. But how are we going to market in today's generation? The answer to this question is social media. Your customers today, even some of the older generation, live through Facebook ads. You will keep 100% of the profits you make if you drive traffic to your business website and sell from there. So how will I compete with all of these big companies? Before we assess how you will handle the competition, you need to decide who your competitors are. There are 4 types of competitors in this business world. Obviously, I know this having the best beer in the world. All competitors are under this umbrella of direct and indirect, and then there are potential and actual subsets of both. So let's go over some of yours. Your direct actual is going to be your ultimate enemies like Kayak or Liberty Travel. Not only do these companies book travel plans and flights, but they try to find the best deals. Your direct potential are those big body companies like Airbnb that do not plan the whole shebang of a trip like you will, but they find cheap housing for people. Now your indirect actuals or your substitutes would be things like national travel companies that only travel within the nation. And finally, your indirect potential or obsolete companies that might start to plan travels could be maybe if universities decide to make travel plans. So now, John, you have it all. All you need from the wise words of the Irish. It's up to you to take these dreams to reality.
Baby, I just wanna dance with my pretty little Galway girl.
It's definitely important to stay ahead of the curve with competitors, but how can I make a profit?
Cause I got a really big team, and they need some really big rings. They need some really nice things.
Greetings from Iceland, John. I'm sure you have so many unanswered questions about your new small business. My name is Taylor, and I have the info you need about building your team and managing money matters. So first you may be asking yourself, do I need a partner? So in order to determine whether you need a partner, I'm going to tell you to make a list of your essential business activities. Should be around 5 things. For you, it might be recruiting new clients, booking the travel arrangements, following up with clients, and making sure payments are made on time. And then I want you to ask yourself, can you feasibly handle all of these essential activities? If your answer is yes, great, then you're ready to start your business. If not, you probably want to think about getting yourself a partner, someone who complements you. So as a global financial analyst, you're more likely of a process, detail-oriented person. So you're probably going to want to look for someone who sees more of the bigger picture, someone who has more of a visionary aspect to them. So next you may be thinking, I don't see myself needing employees right now, but what happens when I do? So employees may not seem essential at this point in time, but as the business grows, you'll need them to delegate the non-essential business functions too. Once you find the person you need and you hire them, you're going to go through an onboarding and training process. You want to consider compensation and reward for good performance by this person. When training people, the key aspect of this is to reduce the soldiering effect. You are only as strong as your weakest player, so if you train everyone to be just as good, your whole business will be great. You may also want to consider outsourcing and virtual employees if you feel that this may be helpful for your business. Next question you may want to ask is there anyone else on my team? So what I'm going to say is you're going to need a board of advisors. On this board of advisors, you're going to want an accountant, a lawyer, someone who works with insurance, a mentor, and you want to include a spouse or significant other if you have one. Now, for money matters. You may be thinking, where do I get this money to start a new business? Initially, the money will come from just you and your customers. So if you aren't making the money you need, it's going to come out of your pocket, loans, credit cards, etc. You may also want to consider crowdfunding. There's 2 types of crowdfunding that I feel would be appropriate for you. Maybe project crowdfunding, which gives people a reward for funding you, or gift crowdfunding, where the gifters don't look for anything in return. When can you start to feel less stressed about your money situation? This will occur at the break-even point. When customers are providing enough revenue to cover all of your expenses, and you're no longer charging your own credit cards to pay for them. At this point, it's easier to get others to invest. Now, when you're looking to plan financially for your new business, you need to know your costs and determine your potential revenue. When you're determining your costs, you want to use a chart of accounts, list all your costs and when they will happen, and then you want to add a little fudge factor, 20 to 25%. So these costs may include website production, marketing costs, your time and salary, informational material design, etc. And when determining your potential revenue, you want to do it for the worst case scenario, the best case scenario, and the optimum forecast, which is the most realistic. Now, when pricing your services, you want to consider competition and quality. You want to see if there's some way that you can charge more for your service than others in your area. Maybe you have a value-added service. Is there something additional you do than maybe TripAdvisor or someone else could provide to the customers? And to get a basis for pricing, you may also want to reach out to your competitors and act as a customer and say, hey, how much would you charge for such and such?
Wait, slight issue. Working from home would definitely result in a lawsuit. I don't know how to alleviate this problem.
Welcome to France, John. My name's Grace, and I hear you're looking into starting a travel business. And being a native of one of the biggest tourist cities in the world, I think that's a great idea. But you're definitely going to need a heavy risk management plan in order to ensure that a home-based travel business will run smoothly. The quickest way to break down risk analysis is by following these 3 guidelines: identification, assessment, and control. The first step to managing any problem is identifying what exactly it is. Many times, especially in the travel agency market, this involves foreseeing problems before they happen and taking measures to prevent them. For example, this is going to require that you stay up to date on current trends and events in each country so you can best advise customers on how to stay safe during their travels. Next, you must center your efforts around assessing the problem. How severe is it? How likely is it going to happen? Once you pinpoint the problems that are the highest risk, the next step is to control them. You can always ensure that a potential problem won't happen, but you can't protect yourself to ensure it won't hurt you or your company very much. So when planning these trips, you need to make sure that you are giving enough information and making suggestions to minimize the risk of your customers running into problems abroad. There are several ways to employ this risk management plan that are somewhat applicable to every business in order to prevent lawsuits. First, you should form a corporation or an LLC for abroad on a budget. This will separate your business and personal assets, so no matter what happens legally, your personal belongings will always be safe. Allow yourself to become accustomed to introducing yourself as an employee to this corporation or LLC in order to establish professionalism with your customers and further draw the line between your company and you personally. Another way to further protect yourself and your business is to invest in some type of insurance. Error and omissions malpractice insurance would be especially important for your line of business. That way, if you ever make a mistake, you will have some kind of coverage. These missteps should also be covered in your disclaimer language on the contract customers sign before they go on any trip. You cannot guarantee that the customer will always be happy, especially in the fickle travel business. This again means telling your customer that you are not responsible for any sort of travel issue that is out of your control. This way, if anything goes wrong on someone's trip, for instance, if the weather is bad, a customer gets hurt, or some event happens that the country is no longer safe to travel in, you are not at fault. Furthermore, you can include a limitation of liability clause, which sets your liability at a certain maximum and states that you are not liable for consequential damage. So even if you make the worst possible mistake, you are only liable for what you stated on the contract and for problems that were directly associated with you. Next, it's important to transfer your assets if possible. You must do this with someone you trust completely. Evaluate your marriage and other relationships and think hard about who would be the best person to handle these assets. The selected person will need to then edit their will to ensure the assets come back to you in the case of an accident. Last but not least, avoid crazy people. If you have a bad gut feeling about a customer, do not work with them. Trust your instincts and experience and try to avoid doing business at all with problem causers. Running a business from home sounds ideal, but can definitely end poorly if it's done incorrectly. I have a couple tips for you to help maintain a professional office atmosphere in your personal home. First and foremost, you should never see clients in your home office. This is where legal liability and most similar problems can stem from. Lucky for you, most of your trip planning can be done via phone calls and email planning. Invest in a mailbox at the post office or UPS store to receive business mail at. There are also resources available in the case that you do need to meet with a client. Virtual office spaces and conference rooms exist for this exact reason. There are also a lot of productivity barriers when it comes to working out of your home. It is important that you immediately draw a line between your office life and your personal life. You should set certain office hours when your clients are allowed to call or email you and expect a timely response. Additionally, make it clear to your family that they should not bother you during these working hours. You also need to create an office space for yourself at home. This space should only contain things that would be in a normal corporate office, complete with the required technology. Furthermore, you will need several methods of backing up your work info besides just your computer. By setting these goals and staying aware of your risks and trying to prevent them, you now have everything you need to ensure your personal and professional success in your new small business. Good luck, John. Thanks for visiting.
You don't gotta go to work, but you gotta put in work.
Morning. What a dream. This all makes sense now. Starting a small business might be complex, but I think I can handle it.
It just takes